The call came at 3:47 on a Tuesday afternoon. I remember the exact time because I was standing in my kitchen, holding a cup of coffee I had already reheated twice, when my phone began vibrating against the counter. The number was unfamiliar. Normally, I let unknown callers leave a message. 35 years in Denver courtrooms had taught me that urgent people usually called again, while dishonest people preferred to leave carefully prepared words behind. But something made me answer. Lawrence Wright speaking. A woman took a quick breath. "Mr. Wright, my name is Riley Hennessy. I'm the principal at Ridgeview Elementary School in Glenwood Springs." I set down my coffee. "What can I do for you?" "I'm calling about Iris Bellamy." The name meant nothing to me. "I'm sorry. Who?" "Iris Bellamy. She's 6 years old and enrolled in our first grade program." "I think you have the wrong number." There was a pause. "Are you Lawrence Edward Wright, born on February 11th, 1958? "Yes." "Do you live on Fairfax Street in Denver?" My hand tightened around the edge of the counter. "Yes." "And is this your personal mobile number, ending in 42? "It is." The woman's voice softened. "Mr. Wright, Iris has been waiting in my office for nearly 3 hours. No one came to pick her up after school." "I'm sorry to hear that. But I don't understand why you're calling me." "You are listed as her emergency family contact." "That isn't possible. The file identifies you as her maternal grandfather." I looked toward the framed photograph of Sarah on the shelf beside the kitchen doorway. My late wife was smiling beneath the wide summer hat she wore whenever she worked in the garden. I had 2 children, Thomas and Rachel. Thomas had a son named Owen. Rachel had never had children. There was no 6-year-old Iris Bellamy anywhere in my family. "I have 1 grandchild," I said. "His name is Owen." "I have never heard of Iris Bellamy." "I understand why this sounds confusing." "No, I don't believe you do." The principal lowered her voice. "I have a notarized emergency directive filed by Iris's mother last September. It contains your full legal name, date of birth, address, and phone number. There is also a signed statement identifying you as Iris's biological grandfather." I pulled out a chair and sat down. "Who is her mother?" Another pause. "Maeve Bellamy." The room became very quiet. I knew that name, not well, not in the way a person knows a friend or relative. But I had heard it once, nearly 40 years earlier, in the summer of 1986, before I met Sarah. I spent 6 weeks seeing a woman named Eleanor Bellamy. I was 28 and working long days at the courthouse. Eleanor had come to Denver temporarily to help her aunt recover from surgery. We met at a neighborhood concert, talked until midnight, and spent most of that summer believing 6 weeks could last forever. Then Eleanor returned to western Colorado. I wrote twice. She answered once. Her letter said she had decided to build a life with someone from home and asked me not to contact her again. I respected the request. A year later, I met Sarah. I had not heard the name Bellamy since. Until that Tuesday afternoon. "Was Maeve's mother named Eleanor?" I asked. "Yes." I sat back. My coffee continued cooling on the counter. "What exactly did Maeve say about me?" "I haven't read the private legal statement beyond what the school is authorized to use. It says you are to be contacted if Maeve and Iris's other emergency contacts cannot respond." "Why can't her mother respond?" The principal became silent. When she finally spoke, the careful professional distance in her voice had disappeared. "Mr. Wright, I'm afraid Maeve passed away 2 days ago." I did not answer. "She had been ill for some time," Miss Hennessy continued. "Iris was brought to school this morning by a family friend. The friend apparently believed Iris's grandparents would collect her." "Where are the grandparents?" "Austin Bellamy was taken to the hospital this afternoon after experiencing chest pain. His wife, Evelyn, went with him. We have been unable to reach anyone else." "And the child?" "She is here with me and our school counselor. Does she know?" "Her mother died?" "No." I closed my eyes. There are calls that divide your life into 2 parts before you answered. "And after." This was one of them. Why wasn't she told? I asked. The school was not given clear information this morning. We only learned about Maeve's death when we contacted the hospital and the family attorney. We didn't want Iris to receive that news from someone who might disappear from her life an hour later. The principal hesitated. She has been asking for you. For me? She says her mother told her that if there was ever a day when no one came, Grandpa Lawrence would. I stood so quickly that the chair scraped backward. Glenwood Springs is almost 3 hours from Denver. I know. Is she safe? Yes. Has she eaten? We gave her a sandwich and fruit. Is there an adult staying with her? I will remain here until she leaves. I looked around my kitchen as if the room might tell me what to do. On the table lay a folder from Patricia Chen, my attorney. Beside it was one of Owen's wooden carvings, a bird, though the wings were different sizes. My life had been difficult during the previous year. My son had tried to control my finances. My grandson had been injured by a violent man. I had helped expose fraud, family lies, and the cost of silence. But every one of those situations had given me time to study the facts. This one gave me a frightened 6-year-old who had been promised I would come. I'm leaving now, I said. The principal released a breath. Thank you. Please do not tell her. I am definitely her grandfather yet. I understand. Tell her Lawrence is coming. I will. And Miss Hennessy, yes? Do not let anyone take her unless I confirm it with you, or law enforcement verifies their authority. Her answer came without hesitation. I won't. I ended the call and stood in the middle of the kitchen. For several seconds, I did nothing. Then 35 years of courtroom habit took control. I wrote down the time of the call, the principal's name, the school, every fact she had given me. When the world changes suddenly, memory becomes unreliable. People remember fear instead of sequence. They remember conclusions instead of words. I had built my career by preserving words before emotion could change them. At 3:54, I called Rachel. My daughter answered from her hospital office. Dad, I need you to confirm a death. What happened? Her name is Maeve Bellamy, Glenwood Springs. Possibly pancreatic cancer or another long illness. She died 2 days ago. Rachel became quiet. Who is she? I don't know yet. That doesn't sound like the truth. It is the only truth I have. I gave her the principal's information. I'm driving to Ridgeview Elementary. Why? There is a 6-year-old girl there who may be my granddaughter. Rachel said nothing for almost 5 seconds. Then she asked, Do you want me to come? Not yet. Verify what you can. Call Patricia and tell her, I may need emergency family law advice. Dad, are you safe to drive? It was a reasonable question. A year earlier, Thomas had used questions like that to challenge my independence. But Rachel was not questioning my ability. She was asking whether I was too shocked to operate a car. I will be careful. I'm calling you in 30 minutes. I'll answer. I packed an overnight bag, took my coat, and left Fairfax Street at 4:08. Traffic leaving Denver was heavy. I drove west beneath a sky that had begun turning gray. The mountains rose ahead of me, dark against the late afternoon light. At first I kept the radio off. The silence did not help. It gave my mind too much room. I thought about Eleanor. The last evening we spent together. We sat beside a public fountain and talked about the lives we expected to have. She wanted a house near mountains. I wanted to become an official court reporter instead of moving between temporary assignments. Neither of us mentioned children. When she left, I was disappointed, but not destroyed. 6 weeks felt enormous at 28, and small at 68. I had never believed that summer had created a life. Maeve Bellamy. If she was Eleanor's daughter and I was her father, Maeve would have been nearly 40. A woman had lived an entire life while I knew nothing. She had learned to walk, started school, graduated, fallen in love perhaps, become a mother, become ill, died, all without me. I did not yet know whether any of that was true. But my hands tightened on the steering wheel as though my body had already accepted what my mind was still questioning. Rachel called near Idaho Springs. I confirmed the death, she said. My stomach tightened. Tell me. Maeve Eleanor Bellamy, 39. She died Sunday morning at a hospice residence near Glenwood Springs. Cause, I can't access private records, but a public notice mentions pancreatic cancer. Family, her mother Eleanor died 9 years ago. Austin Bellamy is listed as her father. Evelyn is his second wife. Anything about Iris's father? Nothing I can verify. Patricia? She is contacting the attorney named in Maeve's public probate filing. Rachel took a breath. Dad, did you know Eleanor Bellamy? Yes. How well? For 6 weeks in 1986. Another pause. Before Mom? Before I met your mother. Did Eleanor ever tell you she was pregnant? No. Are you certain? The question hurt, but I understood why she asked. I am certain. I believe you. Thank you. Thomas is here. Why? I called him. I nearly objected, then stopped. If Iris was part of our family, Thomas had a right to know. What did he say? He thought I was joking. Then he asked whether you needed someone to drive. I don't. I told him. Rachel's voice softened. Dad, whatever happens when you get there, don't promise the child anything you cannot control legally. I know. She may be in shock. I know. And if she is not your granddaughter, I will still make sure she is safe tonight. Rachel released a breath. That is what I thought you would say. At 5:21, the school principal called again. I answered through the car's hands-free system. Is Iris all right? She is still with us. But I have more information. What happened? We spoke with Maeve's attorney. Mr. Bellamy is stable, but he is being kept overnight for observation. Mrs. Bellamy is with him and cannot safely leave. Does the attorney know why I'm listed? Yes, he says. Maeve prepared a temporary guardianship packet and a sealed letter for you. My mouth became dry. Where is it? At her apartment. Mr. Bellamy has the key. Does the lawyer believe I am Maeve's father? He would only say that Maeve arranged DNA documentation before her death. The mountains moved past my windshield. Did she know she was dying? Yes. How long? Mr. Mercer said approximately 18 months. 18 months. She had known for a year and a half. She had found my address, phone number, and date of birth. She had placed my name in school records, but she had never called. Has Iris said anything else about me? I asked. The principal became quiet. She has a photograph of me? It appears to be printed from a newspaper article. You are standing outside a courthouse. I remembered the photograph. A local reporter had written about retired court employees who volunteered to help witnesses prepare for testimony. That article was 4 years old. Maeve told Iris that you listened carefully, Miss Hennessy said. She said you were the kind of man who came when someone needed help. For the first time during that drive, I had to pull over. I stopped at a scenic turnout and switched on the hazard lights. Below me, the highway curved between dark slopes. Cars passed in long lines, their tires making a steady sound against the road. Mr. Wright, the principal said. I'm here. Are you all right? No. It was the honest answer, but I'm still coming. I reached Ridgeview Elementary at 7:18. The school was quiet. The parking lot had only 3 vehicles left. Light shone from the main office windows. I entered through the front doors and found a security officer waiting inside. He checked my identification, copied the details, and led me to the office. I saw Iris before she saw me. She sat on a small blue chair with her feet not quite touching the floor. A gray stuffed elephant rested in her lap. Its left ear had been repaired with pink thread. Iris had dark blonde hair pulled into a loose braid. She wore a green sweater, black leggings, and one untied shoe. On the table beside her was a paper cup, an apple core, and a drawing made with purple crayon. Miss Hennessy stood near the desk with another woman, probably the counselor. The principal looked at me, then at Iris. The child turned. For 1 second, neither of us moved. Her eyes were gray-blue. Sarah's eyes had been green. Thomas and Rachel had brown eyes. Mine were gray-blue. That did not prove anything. But I felt the fact before I reasoned through it. Iris slid off the chair. She held the elephant against her chest and walked toward me. She stopped several feet away. "Are you Lawrence?" "Yes." She studied my face carefully. Then she looked at the photograph she held in one hand. It was the courthouse picture. Her eyes returned to me. "Mom said you would be older." Despite everything, I almost smiled. "The photograph is old. She said you might have more gray hair." She was right. Iris took another step. "Are you my grandpa?" The principal watched me closely. So did the counselor. I knelt to bring myself closer to the child's height. "My name is Lawrence Wright. I knew your grandmother Eleanor a long time ago. You're supposed to say yes. I don't want to lie to you." Her lower lip trembled. "Mom said you were. She may be right. We are going to find out." Iris looked at the photograph again. Then she asked the question that revealed what she had been carrying all afternoon. "Did you come because Mom couldn't?" I looked toward Miss Hennessy. Her eyes filled with sadness. The school counselor stepped closer. "Iris," she said gently, "there is something we need to tell you." The child tightened her grip on the elephant. "Is Mom at the doctor?" The counselor knelt beside us. I will not repeat every word she used. Some words belonged to the people who had to hear them. She told Iris that Maeve had been very sick. She explained that her mother's body had stopped working. She said Maeve had died. Iris stared at her. "No," the counselor continued softly. "No, she said she was coming home." "I know," she promised. "I know. You're wrong." The child turned toward the principal. "Call her." No one moved. "Call my mom." Miss Hennessy covered her mouth for a moment. Iris looked at me. "You call her." I had recorded thousands of painful statements in court. Pancreas identifying children, doctors explaining deaths, families hearing verdicts. There is no correct sentence for a child who believes an adult can reverse death with a telephone. I reached out slowly. Iris stepped toward me before my hand touched her. She climbed into my arms and wrapped both arms around my neck. The gray elephant pressed between us. She cried without sound at first. Then her whole body began shaking. I held her. I did not promise everything would be all right. At that moment it was not. I said the only thing I could say honestly. "I'm here," she cried into my shoulder until her strength disappeared. When she finally lifted her head, her face was wet and exhausted. "Are you leaving?" "Not tonight." "Tomorrow?" "I don't know what tomorrow requires yet." Her expression changed. "A child hears uncertainty as danger," I corrected myself. "But I will not disappear without telling you." That answer seemed to satisfy her, more than a promise she did not trust. The principal showed me the emergency documents. Maeve had listed Austin and Evelyn Bellamy first. Then me. The form included a notarized statement. Asterisk. Lawrence Ed Wright's the biological father of Maeve Eleanor Bellamy, and therefore the maternal grandfather of Iris May Bellamy. In the event of my death or incapacity, contact him immediately. Asterisk. Below it was my address, my phone number, a photograph, and a handwritten line, "He does not know yet. Please forgive the confusion this may cause." I read that sentence 3 times. Mrs. Hennessy touched the folder. "We also need to involve child services because her legal guardian is deceased." I understand. They have approved a temporary release to the Bellamy residence, if you and the family attorney accompany her. Where is the attorney? He is waiting at the ranch. I signed forms acknowledging that I had no confirmed legal relationship yet, and that I was transporting Iris only with temporary authorization. Courtrooms taught me that compassion and documentation were not enemies. The right document often protected compassion from the people who arrived later with different memories. At 8:05, I carried Iris to my car. She woke when I fastened the seatbelt. Is this your old car? She asked. Yes, Mom said it was silver. It used to be more silver. She touched the cracked skin on the elephant's trunk. His name is Walter. That is a serious name. He's serious. Then I'm glad he came. The Bellamy Ranch was 20 minutes outside Glenwood Springs. Iris remained awake during the drive. She asked where Denver was. She asked whether I had children. I told her about Thomas and Rachel. Are they my uncle and aunt? They may be. Do they know me? Not yet. Do you have other grandkids? One grandson. Owen. How old? 11. Does he like elephants? I don't know. He likes fishing and carving pieces of wood that do not always look like what he says they are. Iris considered that. I make pictures that don't look right. Then you already have something in common. When we reached the ranch, a porch light was burning. The house was smaller than I expected. White siding, a green roof, and a wide porch facing open fields. A dark truck stood near the barn. A man in his 70s waited at the front door, with one hand pressed against his chest. Austin Bellamy looked tired, pale and angry. Beside him stood a younger man holding a leather briefcase, the attorney. I carried Iris from the car. She reached toward Austin, Grandpa. His face broke. He took her carefully and held her against his chest. For several minutes, his anger disappeared beneath grief. Then he looked at me over the child's shoulder. You finally decided to come. The words were quiet. They carried almost 40 years of hatred. I found out at 3:47 this afternoon. His mouth tightened. Maeve said you might claim that. I am not claiming anything. I am telling you when the school called me. You expect me to believe you never knew, yes. You left Eleanor pregnant and alone. No. She told me you knew. She never told me. Austin shifted Iris onto one arm. The movement seemed painful. The attorney stepped between us. Mr. Bellamy, your doctor instructed you not to become agitated. My daughter is dead. I'll become agitated if I choose. Not while holding Iris, I said. Austin looked at me sharply. I expected another accusation. Instead, he gave the child to the attorney and walked into the house. Iris reached toward him. I'm not leaving, he said. I'm sitting down. We followed. The living room contained family photographs from every stage of Maeve's life. Maeve as a baby, Maeve missing a front tooth, Maeve in a graduation gown, Maeve holding newborn Iris. I stopped in front of the graduation photograph. Maeve had Eleanor's mouth, but the shape of her face was familiar. Not mine exactly. Thomas's Rachel's. Family resemblance is an unreliable witness. Once people expect to see a connection, they find it everywhere. But I could not stop looking. The attorney introduced himself as Julian Mercer. He explained that Maeve had hired him shortly after receiving her diagnosis. She created a guardianship plan, a will, and a series of medical and DNA directives, he said. Why didn't she contact me? I asked. She intended to. That is not the same as doing it. No. Austin sat in an armchair near the fireplace. She had time to find lawyers and fill out school forms. But not time to make one phone call. Julian looked at him. Maeve was ashamed. Of what? Austin demanded. The attorney glanced at Iris. The child had fallen asleep against the sofa with Walter beneath one arm, not in front of her. Austin's anger remained, but he nodded. We covered Iris with a blanket. Julian gave me a temporary family placement document. It allowed me to remain in the home and participate in decisions until the court reviewed Maeve's plan. Austin objected at first. Then he looked at Iris and signed. I slept on the sofa. At 2:10 in the morning, I woke to the sound of crying. Iris stood in the hallway holding the elephant. I forgot, she said. I sat up. Forgot what? That Mom died. She began crying again. I opened my arms. She came to me. For nearly an hour, we sat beneath a blanket while she told me small facts about Maeve. Maeve liked lemon candy. Maeve burned pancakes whenever she tried to make animal shapes. Maeve sang the wrong words to songs and refused to admit it. Maeve had a blue scarf. Iris was not allowed to wear because it was for grown-up places. Children often describe love through details. Adults overlook. I listened. At some point, Iris fell asleep against me. I remained awake until morning. Austin entered the room shortly after sunrise. He stopped when he saw us. Iris's hand rested inside mine. Austin stared at our fingers. "What?" I asked. He shook his head. "Maeve's hands looked like that." I looked down. My left little finger bent slightly inward. It had since childhood. Iris's did the same. It proved nothing. But Austin sat in the chair across from us and covered his face. "I hated you," he whispered. "Maeve said you believed I abandoned Eleanor for 39 years. Then we were both living inside a decision someone else made." He looked at me. "You loved Eleanor for 6 weeks. That isn't an answer. It is the honest one." Austin nodded slowly. "I loved her for 32 years, even when I knew part of her heart had belonged to someone before me." "Did she tell you she was pregnant before you married?" "Yes." "What did she say about me that she had called you? That you told her you wanted no part of a child?" My anger came suddenly. I stood carefully so I would not wake Iris. "She lied." Austin stood too. "You are calling my dead wife a liar." "Yes." He moved closer. I did not step back. "She wrote me one letter after returning home," I said. "She said she had chosen someone else and asked me never to contact her again. There was no pregnancy, no child, nothing. You could have searched for her. She told me not to, and that ended it." I was 28. We had known each other 6 weeks. I believed respecting her choice was the decent thing to do. Austin looked toward the sleeping child. "I spent years imagining you living comfortably while Eleanor raised your daughter." I did live comfortably, because I did not know my daughter existed. The truth sounded cruel when spoken aloud. Neither of us benefited from it. At 9, Evelyn returned from the hospital with a family friend. She was Austin's second wife and had helped raise Maeve after Eleanor died. Evelyn hugged Iris, spoke briefly with Julian, and then placed a key in Austin's hand. "The apartment," she said. Austin looked at me. "Maeve left something for you." We drove into town shortly before 10. Maeve's apartment was on the second floor of a brick building above a small bookstore. The front room was tidy, but not empty. A child's shoes stood beside the door. A purple backpack hung from a hook. On the refrigerator were school drawings and medical appointment cards. Maeve had expected to return. Or perhaps she had kept the apartment normal because Iris needed to believe she would. Austin led me to the kitchen. A sealed envelope lay in the center of the table. My full name was written on the front, Lawrence. Edward Wright. Beneath it, in smaller letters, *, please read this with my father. He deserves the truth too. *, Austin sat across from me. I opened the envelope. The letter was 6 pages long. I read it aloud. "Dear Lawrence, I have written this letter 12 times prow. In some versions I called you Dad, in others I called you Mr. Wright. Neither felt honest, because you have never had the chance to be one, and I have never had the courage to meet the other prow. My name is Maeve Bellamy. I am your daughter." My voice stopped. Austin looked at the table. I continued. "You did not know about me. I need to write that clearly, because too many people have lived inside a different story, praw. My mother never told you she was pregnant, praw. She told Austin that she had contacted you and that you rejected us. That was not true." Austin closed his eyes. His face changed as if someone had struck him. "I discovered the truth after Mom died. Prow inside an old storage box. I found a journal she kept during the summer she met you. The final pages were written after she returned home. She wrote that she was afraid you would ask her to choose between you and the life she already understood. She was afraid Austin would leave if he knew she still had feelings for you. Most of all, she was afraid of being rejected. So she rejected you first without giving you the chance to answer. She let Austin believe you had abandoned me, because his anger made it easier for him to protect us. I am sorry that you carried no blame while he carried all the hatred. Austin began crying. He did not hide it. I found you 2 years ago. I read about your career and your wife Sarah. I learned that you had children and a grandson. By then, I had already been diagnosed with stage 4 pancreatic cancer. My doctors told me I might have 18 to 24 months. I wanted to contact you immediately. Then I became ashamed. I was 37 years old. I had a child of my own. I imagined appearing at your door only because I was dying and needed someone to care for her. I told myself I was protecting you. The truth is that I was protecting myself from hearing that you did not want me. I put the page down. Anger moved through me, not at her illness, not at the child waiting at the ranch. At 18 months of silence, at a woman who had inherited her mother's fear and repeated it, Austin looked at me. You're angry, yes, so am I. I picked up the next page. Iris's father was named Daniel Hart. He died in a climbing accident before I knew I was pregnant. His parents are also gone. Austin and Evelyn have been everything to Iris, but Dad's heart condition has become worse, and Evelyn cannot manage alone. I needed another plan. I began the legal process last year. I provided a DNA sample under a chain of custody agreement. I gave the attorney permission to compare it with yours, if you consent, I added your name to Iris's school records, because I was afraid I would die before I found the courage to call. It was a cowardly way to force the truth into your life. I know that. I am sorry. My hands shook. The letters on the page became difficult to see. I have told Iris about you for the past year. I told her you live in Denver. I told her you listened carefully when people were frightened. I told her you helped families find the truth, I told her that if the world ever became too confusing, you would come. I had no right to make that promise for you. But I believed it. I looked toward the window. People were walking along the sidewalk below us, carrying coffee and shopping bags. Their Tuesday morning had continued. Mine had disappeared. I do not expect you to forgive me, or Mom Pry. We took years from you that cannot be returned. You missed my first day of school. You missed my graduation, You missed Iris's birth, You missed every birthday because we chose fear instead of truth. I cannot repair that. I can only ask you not to let my worst decision become Iris's inheritance. Please do not take her away from Austin and Evelyn. Please do not ask her to forget me. Just become part of the circle around her. If the court believes you should raise her, keep her near the people and places she knows. Tell her the truth when she asks. And if she calls you Grandpa, please understand that I gave her that word because I wanted her to have one last safe place to go. Please be her grandfather. Please do what I was too afraid to ask you while I was alive. Maeve lowered the final page. For a long time, neither Austin nor I spoke. Then he reached across the table and placed his hand over mine. I am sorry, he said. His voice broke. I hated you in front of her. I called you a coward. I told Maeve that some men could leave a child and sleep perfectly well. I did sleep well. The words came out before I could stop them. Austin flinched. Because I didn't know, I added. I understand. No, I don't think either of us can understand yet. He nodded. We sat in the apartment of the daughter. We had both loved in different ways, and both failed to know completely. Austin had raised her. He had attended every school event, repaired every bicycle, and waited outside every doctor's appointment. I had contributed nothing because I had been given no chance. Biology did not erase what he had done. His years did not erase what had been taken from me. Grief does not divide itself fairly. There was enough for both of us. That afternoon, I called Patricia. She drove from Denver the next morning. Rachel came with her. Thomas followed, after arranging for Owen to stay with a friend. They met Iris at the ranch. Rachel knelt beside her and introduced herself. I may be your aunt. Iris looked at me. Does everyone say May in this family? Rachel laughed through tears. For the moment. Thomas had brought Owen's wooden bird. He gave it to Iris. "My son made this," he said. "He wants you to have it until he can meet you." Iris examined the uneven wings. "What is it?" Thomas looked at me. "A bird. It looks like a potato. That means you and Owen will get along." For the first time since I met her, Iris laughed. The DNA process took 12 days. Maeve's sample had been collected under proper legal supervision before her death. I provided mine at a certified laboratory. During those 12 days, I remained near Glenwood Springs. I stayed at the ranch. I took Iris to school with Evelyn. I learned that she disliked the crust on sandwiches, but ate it if cut into triangles. She knew how to read simple books and became angry when adults helped too quickly. She slept with Walter under her left arm. Every night, she asked a different question about death. "Can Mom see me? Will I forget her voice? Did she know I was at school? Was she scared?" I did not invent comforting answers. When I knew something, I told her. When I did not, I said so. One night she asked, "Are you mad at Mom?" "Yes." She stared at me. Adults often tell children not to be angry with the dead, as if death turns every mistake into kindness. I did not want Iris to learn that love required dishonesty. "What are you mad about?" she asked. "I'm angry that she waited so long to tell me." "Are you mad she died?" "No." "Are you mad at me?" "Never for this. Can you love someone and be mad?" "Yes." "Even when they're dead?" "Yes." She thought about that. "Then I'm mad at her too, that's allowed." She promised she would come home. "I know." Iris began crying. I sat beside her until she slept. The DNA report arrived on a Monday morning. Patricia opened it at the ranch kitchen table, with Austin, Evelyn, Rachel, and me present. The report stated that I was Maeve Bellamy's biological father, with a probability greater than 99.99%. Austin released a long breath. Evelyn began crying. Rachel covered her mouth. I looked at the numbers. A court reporter learns not to give numbers emotions. A date is a date. A page number is a page number. A percentage is a percentage. But 99% gave me a daughter after her death. It confirmed a relationship I could never live inside. I left the room and walked to the barn. Austin found me there 20 minutes later. "She was yours," he said. "She was yours too." He leaned against the doorway. "I thought you might try to replace me." "With what? A laboratory report?" He looked toward the house. "I don't know what Iris needs now. Neither do I. You're 68. So are you. I'm 72, and my heart is failing. You're still her grandfather." He looked at me. "So are you." That was the first time he used the word without anger. The guardianship hearing was scheduled for the following May. Until then, the court created a temporary arrangement. Iris remained enrolled at Ridgeview. I moved into a small furnished cottage, 6 minutes from the Bellamy Ranch. It had 2 bedrooms, a narrow kitchen, and a porch facing the mountains. I kept the Fairfax Street house. It belonged to Sarah's trust, and I was not prepared to sell the place where we had built our life. But a house is not a promise, if the person who needs you lives 3 hours away. I brought clothes, court notebooks, Sarah's photograph, and enough furniture to make the cottage feel less temporary. Iris chose the second bedroom. She placed Walter on the bed, Owen's wooden bird on the windowsill, and a framed photograph of Maeve beside the lamp. The first week, she refused to sleep unless the hallway light remained on. The second week, she woke every night at 2 a.m. Sometimes she called for Maeve. Sometimes she came into my room and stood silently until I woke. I never told her she was too old to be afraid. Fear does not check a child's age before entering the room. Thomas and Owen visited on the first weekend. Owen carried a fishing rod and a small box of wooden figures. He had heard the entire situation from Thomas. Though I suspected Rachel had corrected the parts, Thomas explained badly. Iris studied him from the porch. "You're the other grandkid." Owen nodded. "You're the new one." She frowned. "I'm not new. You are to us. That's rude." I didn't mean bad. I stepped between them. You are both doing very well. They ignored me. Owen held up a wooden elephant. One ear was larger than the other. I made this for Walter. Iris took it. It looks like a dog. It's an elephant. It has a tail like a dog. Owen looked offended, then Iris smiled. By the end of the weekend, they were building a fort beneath the porch. Thomas stood beside me, watching them. You have another grandchild, he said. I had another child. He looked at me. I'm sorry. For what? For every year you didn't know. Thomas's own history with me had not been simple. He had once treated my life as something he would eventually inherit and control. But failure had taught him empathy. He placed a hand on my shoulder. Are you going to raise her, if the court allows it, at your age? I looked at him. He smiled slightly. That sounded worse after I said it. Yes. I mean, do you want to? Want was not the right word. I wanted Maeve alive. I wanted the summer of 1986 to end differently. I wanted Eleanor to trust me with the truth. I wanted to meet my daughter before cancer had already started measuring her time. None of those things were available. What I want is less important than what Iris needs, I said. That sounds like something you told me when I was young. I repeated myself often. I thought you liked hearing your own wisdom. I did. Thomas looked toward the children. She needs someone steady. So did you. I know. The legal process examined every part of my life. My age, my health, my finances, my relationship with Thomas and Rachel, the investigations I had been involved in. The temporary guardianship home. The court appointed an evaluator who visited the cottage, spoke with Iris, and watched us prepare dinner. I had spent years in courtrooms. Yet, being evaluated as a possible guardian made me more nervous than any testimony I had ever recorded. The evaluator asked Iris where she wanted to live. With Grandpa Lawrence, she said. Austin lowered his eyes. Then Iris added, near Grandpa Austin and Grandma Evelyn. The evaluator asked whether she understood that I had only recently entered her life. Yes. Why do you feel safe with him? Iris looked at me. He tells me when he doesn't know. That answer mattered more than any recommendation letter. On May 14th, the judge granted me permanent legal guardianship. Austin and Evelyn received broad visitation and shared authority over medical emergencies when I was unavailable. The judge asked whether I understood the responsibilities I was accepting. Yes, Your Honor. You are 68 years old. I am aware. Raising a child requires long-term planning. I have established a guardianship succession plan with my attorney. My daughter Rachel and son Thomas have agreed to serve if necessary. The Bellamys will remain part of Iris's life. The judge looked at Iris. She sat between Austin and Evelyn, holding Walter. Then he looked back at me. Mr. Wright, why should the court choose you? There are questions lawyers prepare for. That was not one of mine. I could have discussed financial stability, family support, or Maeve's written wishes. Instead, I told the truth. Because her mother promised I would come, Your Honor. The judge waited, and I did. The order was signed that afternoon. There was no celebration. Grief remained grief, even when a legal problem was solved. We went to a small diner afterward. Iris ordered pancakes, and asked whether being officially related meant she had to eat the crust on sandwiches. No, I said. Good. Austin looked at me across the table. Eleanor always removed Maeve's crust. Then perhaps it is genetic. Austin smiled. It was the first easy smile we had shared. The first year was difficult. There were nights when Iris screamed from dreams and could not explain what she had seen. There were mornings when she refused to go to school because the last time she went, her mother never came back. The school counselor helped us create a routine. I walked her to the classroom door. I told her who would collect her. I wrote it on a card inside her backpack. If plans changed, I told her before they changed. Children who have lost someone suddenly do not fear only death. They fear altered schedules, unanswered phones, and adults arriving late. I learned to be early, always. I also learned how little courtroom experience helps with braided hair. My first attempt looked like a rope damaged in a storm. Rachel visited and taught me. Iris watched in the mirror. You're pulling. I'm sorry. Mom didn't pull. Your mother had more practice. Did you ever do Aunt Rachel's hair? No, Rachel answered from the doorway. He once tried. I wore a hat to school. Iris laughed, slowly. Our days became ordinary. Ordinary was a gift: breakfast, school, homework, dinner at the Bellamy Ranch twice a week, calls with Thomas and Rachel, weekends with Owen. Austin taught Iris to care for horses. Evelyn taught her to bake bread. Rachel taught her how to ask doctors questions. Thomas showed her how to use a measuring tape. I taught her to listen, not the way people listen while waiting to speak. The way a court reporter listens when every word may matter later. By the following spring, Iris was 7. One afternoon, she sat at my desk in the cottage, pressing keys on an old stenotype machine I had kept from the courthouse. "What does this do?" she asked. "It helps people write spoken words very quickly. Faster than typing? Much faster. Why? So no one can pretend later that they said something different." She pressed another group of keys. The machine produced a line of symbols she could not read. "I want to do this when I grow up." Court reporting? Writing down the truth. That is a larger job. Is it hard? Yes. Are people mad when you do it? Sometimes. Then how do you know you should? I looked at the photograph of Maeve on the shelf, because silence can protect fear for a very long time. Iris considered that. Like Grandma Eleanor? Yes. And Mom? Yes. Were they bad? No. What were they? Afraid. Is that the same? No, but fear can still hurt people. She nodded, though I was not sure how much she understood. Then she climbed into my lap and rested her head against my chest. "Grandpa? Yes. You came. I did. You're still here." "I am." That was the moment I understood the difference between discovering a family and building one. Biology had made me Maeve's father. A laboratory confirmed it after she was gone. A court order made me responsible for Iris, but family was not created by percentages or signatures. It was created at 2:08 in the morning, when a child woke from a nightmare. It was created by arriving early at school, by removing sandwich crusts, by answering painful questions without making the dead either perfect or cruel. I could not recover the years I lost with Maeve. I could not punish Eleanor for a choice made nearly 40 years earlier. I could not ask my daughter why she trusted a school form more than a conversation. All I could do was refuse to repeat the same mistake. Eleanor had hidden the truth because she feared rejection. Maeve had delayed the truth because she feared becoming a burden. Both women believed silence would protect someone. It protected no one. It gave Austin an enemy who had committed no crime. It gave me a daughter only after I could no longer hold her. And it gave Iris one terrible afternoon in a school office, waiting to learn whether the man in an old photograph would keep a promise he had never made. I used to believe the most important records were created inside courtrooms. I was wrong. Sometimes the most important record is a child remembering who came through the door. At 3:47 on a Tuesday afternoon, I answered a call about a granddaughter I did not know existed. By 7:18, she had placed her arms around my neck, and by the following spring when she called me Grandpa, without hesitation, I understood something Maeve had been trying to tell me in her final letter. We cannot always repair the years that fear takes from us. But we can decide that fear will not take the years still waiting ahead.